So it looks like Nvidia has pretty much confirmed the Nvidia RTX 50 series is going to be coming out at CES 2025, or at least the announcement. So last night they had the video game awards. Astrobot happened to win, which I think is probably the right decision. It's a great game. I liked Wukong also, but Astrobot won. Really cool game. Project Red, the guys that made The Witcher 4, they had a teaser trailer for the new Witcher 4, and it said that it was running on sort of an unreleased NVIDIA GPU, an RTX 50 series GPU. So this pretty much confirms, obviously, there's no doubt that a 50 series would come because that's after 40. But now NVIDIA has given pretty much direct confirmation. They're even starting like a hype program for the GPUs. Maybe they feel like the GPU market is still a little bit lukewarm, which it is. People just aren't buying any GPUs, so they should hype them up. The biggest factor here, obviously, is going to be performance, price to performance. It doesn't matter if a 5090 is the best GPU that ever existed by 100 to 200% over like a 4090. If it costs too much, like $2,500 or $3,000, only a few people are going to get it, and it's not going to make most people excited. The same thing with the 5080 and even the 5070, which is even more important that that's priced really well. And now let's hear a word from our sponsor, VIP-CDKdeals.com, a Windows Pro CD key. Add to cart, you put in code CC20. This will also work on Windows 11. You want to go into your settings in Windows, change and adjust your CD key, click activate, and now let's go back to the video. So while we don't have too much information yet, CES 2025 is going to happen in early January. So we're, about a month away or a little bit less. So that's very, very close. And what we think is going to come, of course, is going to be the RTX 5090. If I were to guess, MSRP would be like $1999. Remember, the 4090 was $1599, but this one is going to be much faster. It may have 32 gigabytes of VRAM, GDDR7, more efficient, even faster. So it's going to be not only the best gaming GPU, but the best sort of consumer workstation and productivity GPU until you start to get to the Nvidia very expensive data center stuff. That's a whole different ballgame. But in terms of like something you can more easily buy and that a consumer would have for 3D content creation, for gaming, the 5090 is going to be the best. I don't think Nvidia can raise the price that much because while, yeah, there is going to be a lot of demand for that. You have AI, you have gamers. It's still going to be too much for it to go way over that amount. And remember, even though the 4090 was $1599, most people, I would bet, got it for closer to $2,000 because most of the AIB models cost like $1899 or $1799. It's very rare or more uncommon to actually find a $1599 model. Sure, the Founders Edition was that, but that's sold out. It's impossible to find that now. So there's a lot of price creep that happens. So if it's $1999 base MSRP for like a Founders Edition, for example, you can bet that GPU probably when it hits the market, like as an Asus or a Gigabyte, it's probably going to be $2,300, $2,400. So we may see that bit of a price increase. There were some rumors that said the 5090 may only go up by like $100 over the 4090. Maybe that would be like the base MSRP increase, but we don't know if the actual like market price from the third-party AIBs would go up substantially more. You can bet if the demand is high, just like the 4090 kind of crept up in price very slowly, that's going to happen as well. But I really think that most gamers are going to have their eyes on the 5080 or the 5070. Now, the 5080 likely will be within 10% of performance of a 4090. 10% better is what we're hoping. And with a little bit less power draw, I don't think it's going to be $999. Is it going to be $1,199 like the original 4080 and not the Super? Possibly, but Nvidia may raise the price. If the 5090 goes up, let's say $100, maybe the 5080 would be $1,299. I could see them pricing it at that. And even though it's 16 gigabytes of VRAM, if the performance is really, really good, they can justify it by saying, hey, at least it's cheaper and more efficient than a 4090, and it's going to be faster. So we have to see what happens there. That may be the real high-end GPU this generation if the 5090 ends up being too expensive and more like a Titan class GPU. That kind of happened with the 4090, although the 4090 sold really, really well. I wouldn't be surprised to see that it sold even better than the 4080 and the 4080 Super, which both kind of struggled in that sort of like high end, but it's not quite the best and still too expensive. Now, I think the 5070 may be one of the most important GPUs. Imagine a 5070 that has performance close to like a 4080. Would be pretty good if the price stays in that 599 to 699 range. They can't really go much above, beyond that, because then there's going to be the 70 Ti versions that they have to release in between the 5080. And I don't think Nvidia is going to have that big of a price increase. I think it will be there. Maybe a couple of percent, but I don't think it's going to be something crazy. Like, remember when we saw the 3080 go from 699 MSRP, and then they released a 12 gigabyte version, and all of a sudden that was $1,250, almost $1,300. That was really, really a ridiculous price increase. And they kind of paid for it because nobody bought the 4080 at $1,199. They had to reduce the price of the 4080 when the 4080 Super came out to $999. And then the 4080 Super, I think, did do better considering it's like a mid-cycle refresh. Remember, it came out earlier this year. So it's going to be almost a year between that and the 50 series around January. And that one did do a lot better, I think, than the original 4080, just because $999 for a 4080 Super seemed to be a little more reasonable rather than $1,199 for the original 4080. So those are going to be the three GPUs to keep an eye on, but it's interesting that some of these games, like The Witcher 4, you can bet they're going to use some technology, maybe a new version of DLSS, maybe it's going to be more ray tracing in order to push the new GPUs, and you're probably going to need the extra power. Look what happened with like Cyberpunk and different games like that with the path tracing. Those really, really push GPUs, especially at 4090. So with 4K monitors becoming more prevalent, I think it's going to be a pretty big deal to have a very powerful GPU. And that's where Nvidia can sort of capitalize. But it's nice to see them starting to sort of confirm more what's coming. We don't really know any details yet. We probably won't know until CES 2025. But it's starting to get a little bit exciting. I'm curious to see what they price these at. That's my most, interesting point. What's the price going to be? I know they're going to be fast. I know they're going to be a lot faster in some cases. Maybe the 5090, I'm going to assume is going to be just a monster GPU. But what's the price going to be? That's what really interests me. All right, guys. So remember to subscribe. Let me know what you think down below. And I'll see you guys on the next video.